Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we will discuss the product mix pricing strategy. This topic is typically covered on the CMA exam. It's also covered in your cost accounting, specifically in strategic costing. The big idea here is most companies don't sell one product at a time. They might have to sell a bunch of product all at once. So how do we do things? Well, we're going to learn how to price a portfolio of product or learn certain strategies in order to maximize total contribution margin. We don't look at each item separately. We have to look at the whole picture. And the best analogy I can start with is imagine yourself looking at a menu in a restaurant. You went to a restaurant and they have a menu with a bunch of items, from appetizers to drinks, to the main meal, to dessert, so on and so forth. Now you might be asking, they might have a flat markup across the board, but the answer, that's not really true. Some items on that menu brings you in, and some items brings the profit. So it's not all the same. The menu is engineered so the entire visit is profitable. Not every item is the same. So take this analogy and let's kind of look at it from a business perspective. So when product shares customers share a production process or complete one another in use, a price change in one of these products would have a ripple effect through the demand and cost of others. Because of this interdependency, the goal is to set a price that maximizes the total contribution of the entire portfolio. So you cannot just look at one item, say, I want to make a profit on this item. Well, you have to see how this item will affect other items on the menu. Even if that means selling some items thinly, at cost or below cost, because sometimes all your goal is to bring the people inside the restaurants. Maybe you will have a special on the meal, then you'll make the profit on the alcohol or on the appetizer. So this is the point here. But again, we're not talking about restaurants. We have to talk about all sorts of business. So a kitchen doesn't earn the same margin on every dish. Drinks and sides run rich. A signature entree may be priced thinly to pull people in. You would say, wow, they have a steak on sale. Let's go in there. But they will make the money on other things. So the menu is engineered so the whole visit is profitable. Some items pull the traffic and some pull the profit, as we stated earlier. And the prices are all set together. And specifically from a business perspective, we are going to explore 5 specific business patterns where companies manipulate prices based on how products relate to each other. And those are product line pricing, 2, optional product pricing, 3, captive product pricing, 4, byproduct pricing, and 5, product bundle pricing. And if you know anything about Farhat lectures, every time I have a list, I will go over the items on each of these lists separately, explaining what it is, give you an example so you can relate to it and be able to understand these concepts. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com.
My AI turns any lecture into a complete study system. You can create summary table, formulas, and example from each lecture. Flashcard builds from the lesson itself. A quiz build on the lesson. And as a bonus, convert any lecture into a portable short audio on the go. So it helps you with the retention. No noise, no generic responses, just clarity based on that specific lecture. Don't just watch, interact, test yourself, and retain the material using Farhat AI. Now go to farhatlectures.com now and see how the AI can help you understand, practice, and retain the material.
Let's start with the most common strategy, which is product line pricing. Most companies use that, which is what? Which is spacing out version of a product on a quality ladder. Give you an example. For example, we have Solora fitness trackers. They might have the Go version, which goes for $79, measure your steps and your sleep. they have the Pro version for $179, and notice there is a $70 increase where you'll get the heart rate and the GPS in addition to what's in the Go, and the Elite would include everything plus an ECG and a premium brand. So what happened is they're selling several versions of the same product on a ladder of price points from entry level to premium, and each price signals quality. And what they're trying to do, they want to send you toward trading up. They want to show you the gap. Now you want to have the gap, large enough so the people feel they are getting an update. Otherwise, if the gaps are too close, product will start to cannibalize each other. It means one product would start to sell at the expense of the other. So the $70 gap lets a price-sensitive buyer stop at Go without feeling cheated, while feature seekers reach for Pro. So you want to have this gap so people feel, yes, they are getting some additional feature. If you cut the Pro to, let's assume $99, and you have the gap only $20, you risk compressing the whole ladder, and you will start to cannibalize the other. You might cannibalize the Pro because they feel, or you might cannibalize the Go because price seekers, they might think, well, $99, that's a better version, only $20 more, therefore no one will buy the Go anymore, or vice versa. So you want to keep the gaps clear in between. And this happens a lot in the real world. For example, automakers, they will have the different trim level of the car, a base, a medium, and a premium. Consumer electronic, they will have a good, better, and best tiers. The second strategy is optional product pricing. Now, what if the company now takes the opposite approach and advertise the absolute lowest entry price possible? So what they're trying to do here, they're trying to pull you in through the lowest price. This is optional product pricing, where the company advertise a bare bones base price and earn a rich margin on self-selected add-ons. What could be a good example of this? Airline companies. What they do is they advertise cheap tickets. Then, if you want to add your bags, if you want to add selections, this is where they make the money. Same thing with vehicle option package. They advertise the car at a low cost, but if you want a driver assist, if you want a certain audio, if you want towing services with your vehicle, then you'll pay the extra. So advertise on attractive base price, then earn a rich margin on features buyer self-select. Another example could be the Meridian e-bike. The base price is $1,400. It's barely above what it costs them to make. Then they give you the option to add, for example, long-range battery, $350, cargo rack, $90, theft tracking per year, $60. And that's their cost for each of these items. So they have a higher margin on the optional product pricing. So the strategic call is the standard versus the optional line. Too stripped down feels like a bait. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bait you. Too rich erases the low entry point. And this is what they try to do. Options often carry richer margin because the buyer who wants them is less price sensitive. Third strategy is called captive product pricing. And this is known by the razor and blades model, where you buy the razor, then, at a loss, then you keep on buying the blades to use the razor. Here, a device needs a consumable bought again and again. Well, again, the classic is the razor and blades model, or HP, the printer and ink. You will buy the printer, then you have to buy the ink continuously. Here, price the device low, even below cost, to build an installed base, then earn on the consumable. Give you a more specific example. Brew Nova, a coffee machine. They sell the machine at a loss of $20. It costs them $110. They sell it at $90. Everybody thinks it's a good deal. Then you have to buy the pods, 30 boxes times $9, $270. So the consumer lifetime value is $250. So the way you judge this is by the customer lifetime value, not the device margin. Now, the risk in this business is a third party selling cheap, compatible, consumable guts the recurrent stream, because you want the customer to be buying those pods. So what happened if a rival forced the pod margin from $9 to $4? Now, lifetime value falls to $100, still positive, but the model economics are gutted. So they just basically squeeze you. That fragility is the heart of the captive pricing. And this is, you have to be careful when it comes to that. So companies, they'll try to create something that's unique, patented, so no one can basically replace, their product with some cheap compatible product. The fourth strategy is the by-product pricing. This deals with the physical leftover a company never intended to make in the first place, known as, byproduct. So, making a product sometime unavoidably yields some sort of a residual product, like an oil refinery producing sulfur, or a sawmill producing wood chips. Now let's take a look at this example. So let's assume Cedar Hollow sawmills, they can sell leftover wood chips for $9 per ton. But the incremental cost to sweep those wood chips and transport them is $6. So if they sell them for $9, the cost to sell them is $6. What they're left is with a contribution margin or a profit of $3. Now keep in mind, if they do so, they will avoid the disposal cost, and there's a disposal cost of $4. Therefore, the advantage of selling them is $7 because you sold them, you made $3 profit, and you avoided a $4 expense. Now, what is the biggest behavioral trap here when it comes to management? And that's the sunk cost fallacy. An owner or a manager might let their ego take over and refuse the $9 offer because it doesn't cover the massive original joint cost of planting the trees and buying the machinery. However, we have to keep in mind that those joint costs are sunk costs. They are sunk cost means what? It means you don't have to take them into account. You did not plan for this $9. Everything that happened before is sunk cost, so you cannot take it into account. So accept any price above the incremental cost to get it to the buyer, which is the incremental cost is $6, you can sell it for $9, and credit any disposable cost you can avoid, which is the -$4. So this is what you have to do in this situation, because if you reject the $9 because the chips don't cover allocated joint cost, you cannot consider the joint cost. The joint cost is a sunk cost. Okay, that allocation is irrelevant. Only incremental costs and avoided cost count. The incremental is $6. Be careful, because if you want to sell them, you have to incur that cost, but you can cover that cost, and you are saving $4. So this is very common, like for example, sugar refining yielding molasses. You just look, what can I sell this product for? That's a leftover. Sell it as long as you can cover that additional cost to sell it, and you will make a profit. And if there is any avoidable cost in the process, that's even better. The fifth strategy is the product bundle pricing. What's product bundling? It's basically combine items and price the package below the sum of their individual prices. And with product bundling, we could have pure bundling, where you sell the whole package, all or nothing for the buyer. Or you could have mixed bundling, where you buy the bundle, just like, the whole thing, or you buy each item separately, but the unit prices are higher. So quantify with an example. Let's assume we have 2 channels and 2 customers. One customer loves sports, and channel X have the sports leaning for $14, and the movie channel, the film leaning for $6. And we have the other customer that loves movies, and the movie channel worth $14, and the sports leaning channel is worth $6. Now, if you sell those channels separately, here's what's going to happen. The person that likes the sports, they would only subscribe to channel X, to the sports leaning, and the person that likes the movies, they would only lean toward buying the film movie separately. So if you have only 2 customers, what's going to happen is this. Your total revenue is 14 plus 14 equal to $28 if each channel sells to only one segment. Now, what you would do in those circumstances, you will bundle them. You will bundle channel X together and say $20, and you will bundle channel Y together for $20. Once you bundle them together, then it's worth it for them because, well, I know I like the sports, it's 14, it's additional $6 for the movies, it's not that much. You feel you're getting the movie channel, the film leaning channel at a discount. Therefore, together, 20 plus 20 equal to 40, and that's a 43% increase in revenue. And bundling works best when valuation are negatively correlated. Now, what does that mean? It means that the customer value different product differently. Think about it from a fast food perspective, from a fast food combo. Maybe some customers, you go to buy a burger. A burger is $8 for you. The fries are worth $2 and the drink is worth $1. Okay? You might value them at that. Some other person might value the burger at $6, the fries at $4, and the drink at $2. Rather than pricing each item individually, we will offer a combo, and the bundle would appeal to a broad range of customers and often generate more revenue. Same concept apply when some telecommunication companies offer you internet, TV, and phone all bundled at different prices. It will cost you more. Together, you feel you're saving, but the company increased their revenue. So that's what product bundling is all about. So bundling works well when different customer value different items. Now, this is a summary of all 5 strategies that we discussed at a glance. So if you can go over this and understand it, it will be it's a good sign that you understand the 5 different strategies. What should you do now? You want to go to Farhat Lectures, look at multiple choice, exercises, cases, whether you are a CPA exam candidate, accounting student, finance student. The best investment you can make is invest in yourself, and God bless.